During the initial 2 years of Roosevelt's presidency, there was some improvement in the economy, although the progress was somewhat limited. However, the New Deal continued to enjoy widespread support, prompting FDR to implement a subsequent set of reforms called the Second New Deal. These extra programs were created to offer more help to farmers and workers. Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady, had a major impact during this time. She traveled a lot throughout the country and saw firsthand the suffering of the poor. She shared her experiences with her husband, making sure that the New Deal included relief programs that were specifically created for women and minorities. Eleanor Roosevelt focused on social issues and strongly supported civil rights and workers' rights. The 1936 election was a big win for Roosevelt, the Democrats, and the New Deal. It was significant because it was the first time that most African Americans voted for the Democratic Party. Moreover, this marked the inaugural occasion when labor unions joined forces to endorse a sole candidate, rallying behind the candidacy of Roosevelt. During this period, farmers continued to encounter substantial difficulties. Numerous people were facing environmental problems due to dust storms, and a significant amount of farms were burdened with mortgages. Numerous farmers experienced the unfortunate loss of their land due to their inability to repay loans to banks. After the Supreme Court invalidated the Agricultural Adjustment Act, AAA, farmers required a new law to take its place. In reply, Congress approved the Soil Conservation and Domestic Allotment Act, which offered financial aid to farmers who decreased the production of crops that deplete the soil and adopted practices to conserve the soil. Subsequently, a revised edition of the AAA was approved, omitting the tax provision that had caused the initial AAA to be deemed unconstitutional. The Resettlement Administration was created to help tenant farmers, sharecroppers, migrant workers, and other poor farmers. The agency provided loans to assist farmers in purchasing land. Afterwards, it became the Farm Security Administration, FSA, which continued to give loans and assistance to farmers, while also establishing programs to enhance living conditions in rural regions. The Works Progress Administration, WPA, was very successful in creating jobs rapidly during the Great Depression. It hired many workers to build airports, roads, libraries, schools, hospitals, and other important infrastructure. Sewing groups were established with the purpose of making clothes for people who require them. Although some critics saw the WPA as a program that only created jobs for the sake of paying people, its impact was substantial. The WPA effectively decreased unemployment and helped people in need, while also boosting the morale and self-respect of workers in addition to their pay. In addition, the WPA helped different professionals like teachers, writers, artists, actors, and musicians by giving them jobs and support during difficult economic periods. It offered help to women, minorities, and young people too. The National Youth Administration, NYA, was an important program created as part of the New Deal. It provided assistance and part-time employment to many high school and college students, enabling them to pursue their education despite challenging economic conditions. The assistance provided was vital in enabling young individuals to pursue their education and create a more promising future. The Second New Deal brought in important changes to make working conditions better and provide more financial security for retired workers. Congress approved the National Labor Relations Act, also known as the Wagner Act, as a replacement for the NERA, which had been deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. The purpose of the Wagner Act was to protect workers' rights to join unions and engage in collective bargaining, while also preventing unfair labor practices. The act created the National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, to ensure these reforms are implemented. The Fair Labor Standards Act was passed in 1938, establishing important labor standards. It set a limit of 44 hours per week for work and introduced a minimum wage for the first time ever. Furthermore, it contained measures to safeguard employees who are below the age of 16. The Social Security Act was a major accomplishment of the New Deal. This action consisted of three primary elements. 1. Old age insurance, a supplemental retirement plan that provided funds from what workers and employers paid into the system. 2. Unemployment compensation, payments to workers who lost their jobs, paid for by a tax on employers. 3. aid to the disabled and families with children, for people who could not be expected to work, paid for by federal funds available to states. The Second New Deal expanded electricity availability in rural areas by establishing the Rural Electrification Administration, REA. This initiative was instrumental in providing modern utilities to regions that had previously lacked access.